Okay, a lot of time has passed since the last video. My camera got full and took me a while to get everything dumped out. But I think the last thing I was working on was I was drilling the holes here for the speakers, and I drilled all the pilot holes for the buttons. I went to Bruce's house and I finished drilling the large holes, and I've put all the buttons in, and I've wired up the LEDs for the buttons. The buttons have 4 pins on them, and let me flip this way so it matches. Two of the posts on the outside are for the switch, and 2 of the posts on the inside are for the LED light. And so we have the positive end of the LED light and the negative end. And I did a little calculation, and the system recommends that I do a bunch of parallel LEDs with 220 ohm resistors through the ground, because it's a 4.5 volts. So that's what I've done here. I've wired all these up. These are all on the positive lead, which is going to go to the power. That's what the black line is for, the power. And then I got the 220 ohm resistors on all these going to ground, and that's what the white wire is for, ground. So I got all these lit up. I don't have this one lit up. This is a little stealth button, so I don't want it lit up. So that's all good for this. The next thing I did was I took the chip, the sound effects chip, and I've wired up the little posts here, so I can wrap and solder the wires onto it when I'm ready. I've also put the little standoffs here. Yeah, I think I can do it here. Got to glue those speakers down. You can see that the speakers are much smaller than the holes that I created, so. But oh well, it's gonna have to work. So that's where I'm at right now. What I was going to do was I need to run, the switches are connected to this with pull-up resistors. So in order for these switches to work, I need one end to go to ground, and then the other end to go to one of the pins here for the switches. And so with the chip, right? This is the audio chip, and then this is where it's supposed to connect to a switch. And so there's a pull-up resistor going to the power. So when this is not connected, this pulls this up to whatever voltage. You know, like a 5 volts, or if this drops it down, it might be 3 volts. This end will go to ground. So when this closes, then this voltage will immediately go to 0. And then it knows that the button's been pressed. So this is all done already in the chip. All I have to do is take the switch and run one end of it to ground, and then the other end to the pin. So that's what I'm gonna do with all of these switches. All right. Okay, I'm going to glue these speakers into place. And I got some Gorilla Glue here. Let's just put this around the rim. Okay. I'm just going to put this right there. Okay. And mark around the outside edge here. We will glue that in place. All right, let's put the lid on the Gorilla Glue. Let that set a bit. And we'll come back and check it. I've glued in the speakers. This is still loose, but I got standoff, so I can glue it in here when it's done. What I did is I wired up all the LEDs for the lights, except this one. This one's supposed to stay dark. This is the power side for the LEDs. All the whites are the grounds, and so I got all the lights wired up to grounds, and I got the 220 ohms resistors for the LED grounds. I got the switches all hooked up to ground, so when the switch gets pressed, it'll go to ground. So the next step is, gosh, what is the next step? I think I'm going to wire up the potentiometer. So that means taking the battery pack and having the ground hooked up. So I'm going to get these whites together and hook up the ground, and then the positive will go to this switch, and then on the other side it'll go to this positive, and then the positive on the circuit board. I also got all the speakers, so one of the speaker wires will go to the potentiometer middle, and the other speaker wire will go to one of the connections here. This is the speaker connections. I got to figure out which end is which, so I'm going to have to get the voltmeter and measure the ohms across here. And then the big thing is power and ground for the board and all the individual switch lines. I think that'll be it. This is a USB, so I can drop the audio files. Maybe I'll do that before wiring it up. Okay. All right, I got the speakers wired up, and I had to glue in the board, so I got a little weight holding it down while the glue sets. I'm using Gorilla Glue, and it's an instant glue, but it's you still gotta hold it in place for quite a while for it to get tacky and set. So that's gonna set. Hello everybody, I am back, and got a little bit of progress. Wired up the power, wired up the lights. I've only wired up one of the buttons, but the idea is they turn it on, the lights come on. I turn it up all the way. They hit the button. That's an eye poke. Doesn't sound like it. I can keep holding it down. Trying to get the other buttons to do it, but still working on it. So that's what I'm doing next. I will give you an update as soon as that's done. Getting close. Well, people, what fun this is. I have not one, but two bad switches. I planned for one extra, didn't plan for two extra, so I'm gonna have to order another replacement. So I've got several of the buttons hooked up. Let's show it to you. All right, this is where I disconnected it, so these aren't connected anymore. It's also very quiet. So it works. Got to get the rest of the buttons going, and I think since it's so quiet, I'm going to take this potentiometer out because it just doesn't make sense to have a volume control if the max volume is so quiet. So I do have a little toggle switch. So I'll probably take this out and hook up the speakers directly, and then just have a toggle switch for the on-off, and get that button replaced, and And then got to tape this on the inside of the lid, someplace where it has enough room to squish things, and then seal it up and it should be ready to go. Okay, so I'm gonna order the buttons where we didn't finish in a day and a half, so we're gonna have to wait for those buttons to come in. All right, I'll see you in a bit.